But when we shot the first scene, when all the women are riding horses together, I was holding Patty's shoulder, watching the monitor, and I told her, I can't believe we're shooting this. This is history. I've never seen anything like this.
Hello, Internet. Was Wonder Woman sex positive? That is the clickbait question I want to explore in today's video, as you can tell by the title. I saw Wonder Woman Thursday night and then deep dove into as many reviews as I could find. I watched a few by men, my favorites being Kevin Smith and Black Nerd Comedy, but I really wanted to hear what the women were saying. Again, my favorite being the deep dive breakdown that Beyond the Trailer did. Heads up, this video is going to get into massive spoiler territory, and it is not a review of the film as a whole. As a whole, I loved this film enough to see it twice and to make this video focusing on the on-screen relationship between Diana and Steve. So, I could be wrong, but most reviews that I've seen and read thus far have shied away from the specifics of the relationship developed and how important Steve's masculinity was to the genre. I greatly appreciate how well-rounded both characters were, and I want to be pointed that I'm looking at the relationship from a cis-normative perspective.
You're a man.
Yeah. I mean, do I not look like one?
With hope for more diverse media representation later. It is no secret that LGBTQ content is still taboo in international blockbusters, and we'll be waiting quite a while for the globalization of characters like those found in the incredibly diverse cast of, please save it from the cancellation pile, Sense8. As someone in the community with straight passing privilege, I believe that the cis-normative relationships we are shown are still important, and the representation of this healthier one is a positive direction. So what do I mean by sex positive when I apply it to this PG-13, family-friendly superhero film? Well, for one, Diana's iconic warrior costume is owned by Gal Gadot. Her portrayal of Diana is someone that is strong and confident and hopeful, along with the thirst for knowledge and a desire to understand and empathize. While the history of the feminist icon of Wonder Woman is constantly viewed through a male gaze, I walked out of the theater feeling strong, confident, and supported by this character. And yes, she was hot damn attractive while doing so. I want to note that this perspective is coming from someone who is widely attracted to both Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. I was constantly getting pitter-pats watching their on-screen relationship bloom. To me, there were multiple major scenes of intimate dialogue that developed this relationship in a refreshing way. From my perspective, the bath scene, to the boat scene, to the dancing scene that led into the bedroom scene, both the overt and audible communication and the non-verbal communication was very sex-positive between the two of them. Theirs is the most healthy insta-love relationship I've ever seen. Looking at their wider relationship, respect, communication, honesty, vulnerability, where to compromise, where you have to make choices for yourself, are all in every single scene. The bath scene is the taboo part of this film that is most widely commented on, because it's a really rare on-screen occasion where a fully dressed woman walks in on a man in the nude, and he has to decide how to handle his vulnerability in that scenario. And there's obvious vulnerability there. We open that scene with Steve Trevor playing around in the luminescent water, and A, it's super adorable and endearing, and B, who wouldn't? The physicality of Chris Pine in this scene plays to the multifaceted character that Steve is. He's in a scenario that, to his societal upbringing, challenges his masculinity and morals. We see the choice of him not ducking back into the water and owning his body in this awkward-to-him situation. And we see that it's a challenge to him to remain confident. The dialogue is played for laughs at the beginning. Oh, I didn't see you come in. Would you say you're a typical example of your sex? I am above average. What's that? It's it's a watch. But ultimately, the conversation is steered to things that matter. And Steve loses any shame and awkwardness he has as he embraces talking about ideals he cares about and memories that matter to him. For her part in this scene, Diana is unflustered and unbothered by this full display of male nudity. Because A, she's educated, I speak hundreds of languages, and B, her society doesn't have room to let shame around such things occur. And we see later in the film, she remains unflustered by the modesty of the modern world, just puzzled by it. It's only later in the baths conversation where she begins to pick up on Steve's discomfort and diverts her gaze from him while he continues to dress in order to make him feel more comfortable. And again, we don't linger in the comedy and taboo in this scene. The dialogue focuses on values that matter to these characters, that are essential to the foundation of this relationship that we see bloom. The way this war is going, I wouldn't want anyone I care about near it. Why do you want to go back? I don't think want is the word. I guess I gotta try. My father told me once, when you see something wrong happening in the world, you can either do nothing or you can do something. And I already tried nothing. When Diana and Steve are on the boat heading to England, we get a second intimate conversation. One laced with comedy, but the dialogue here is what shook me in the best possible way. Here, we get an open conversation about consent and female pleasure between a cis couple on screen. This is major. He makes a bed for her with no intention of sharing that space with her. Are you not sleeping? Does the average man not sleep? Yes, we sleep. We just don't. You don't sleep with women? No, I mean, I do sleep with, yes, but not out of the confines of marriage. It's not polite to assume. Trevor is presented as a very skilled masculine man, and there is stereotype upon trope where a character like his would start wooing the woman opposite to him with intensity and physical presence. You know where I come from, I'm not considered average. To be a spy, you have to show some, vigor. Yet here we see this highly attractive, skilled spy automatically give way to the autonomy of the woman he is with, not even presuming to have a chance with her, and also, the more they talk, the more of her naivety towards his world, the modern world, societal norms, begins to show. And instead of using this to his advantage, he actively listens to her, and not only waits for her consent to lie next to her, but verifies that consent on screen. And even as they discuss sex and relationships, he never physically makes a move on her, even as the conversation gets more hilariously exciting. Where I come from, babies are made differently. You refer to reproductive biology. Yes. Yeah, I know all about that. And I refer to that and other things. The pleasures of the flesh? Do you know about that? I've read all 12 volumes of Cleo's essays on bodily pleasure. There's some more back and forth, and then, no, you wouldn't like them. Why not? They came to the conclusion that men are necessary for procreation, but when it comes to pleasure, unnecessary. Which in both the theaters I went to made for some big laughs, but also some awkward reactions. But there's an underlying moment here that feels new. While it's rooted in Diana's upbringing that she can talk about these things without shame, and she casually does so, it is unprecedented for us to watch her do these things in a PG-13 setting. We had coded language from a superhero in a blockbuster action film that openly stated that female pleasure is important. We had a couple openly discuss on screen that marriage is a possibility, but not the only scenario of intimacy between consenting partners. It was awesome! Through the exposition of Diana following Steve through London, we get to see her analyze the couple holding hands and challenge what passes for armor. It's all wrapped up in humor, and some saw the corsetry talk as like body shaming, but I saw it as something awesomely positive. That due to Diana's all-female society, she couldn't possibly fathom the idea that a woman would need to change her body for any reason. Etta and Steve are flustered by the idea that she's ready to change outfits right in front of them, because in an idyllic all-female society, bodies are just meat sacks that are to be kept healthy and strong and warrior ready, which is a concept I will happily take more of in my visual media. You can fight me, but I saw diverse warrior bodies on Themyscira. And even these massively fit ladies had jiggly thighs because we are all just amazingly put together meat sacks. Back to my newest OTP. The last major one-on-one scene that set a more romantic tone for their relationship was the one that is post No Man's Land. Steve and his squad have just successfully saved the town because they diverted to her leadership in battle, and now they're all just enjoying this calm before the inevitable storm. There's this cute back and forth between what dancing is versus swing and how this is all awfully close. Charlie sings, and they discuss what modern life is like outside wartime. Is this what people do when there are no wars to fight? Steve talks about breakfast and reading newspapers and going to work, and the camera pans out to this wider shot of them just swaying and dancing in the snowfall. Cut to the part of the scene that ended up being the root of some powerful significance to me. Steve opens the door to her room, and again, after that cutesy, flirtatious coded talk, he still doesn't expect anything from her. While I still wish it was more verbal coming from Diana, there is visible consent from her for him to stay, and she initiates the intimacy in the room before we fade to black. I get there is a crowd that didn't want them to kiss or doesn't want to think that they experienced the pleasures of the flesh. But to me, it's the clear respect that Steve shows Diana in this intimacy that is not something we get in productions this massive. And his masculinity is never challenged by his vulnerability with her. And in the morning light, everyone is all business and getting ready for the challenges ahead. There's no stupid joke, and everyone moves on with their lives. We head through the rest of this movie with a push-pull of leadership between Diana and Steve, but it is never relationship or gender-based. The push-pull is just about who believes in their information perspective more. And then when it does become relationship-based in their final scenes together in the final act, their emotions are never used as weapons. What they feel for each other is a baseline of communication between the two of them as they each try to get the other to see from their perspective. After Not Ares is killed and Diana's worldview is like shook, Steve's plea to her to save the human race is only possible because of the amount of trust and respect he has in her and for her. Maybe people aren't always good, Ares or no Ares. Maybe it's who they are, Diana. We can talk about this later, but I need you to come with me. And Diana just can't get past the horrors. It's not about deserving. Maybe we don't, but it's not about that. It's about what you believe. You don't think I get it after all that I've seen? It is a heartbreakingly beautiful speech and moment. And going into the big battle, he chooses what he feels is right, including going on without her, knowing it's probably to his death because the squad won't have her help. And all of this leads up to a sacrifice that was brought up in Avengers between Cap and Iron Man, but here in Wonder Woman, they actually take the shot. Knowing that it'll be his life for the sake of others, he sacrifices himself, and it sucks! But it was shot beautifully. And, well, then we have the rest of the movie with Diana working through her rage and power, and bringing us back up to speed in the actual modern timeline of the DCEU. The representation of this relationship in a blockbuster movie is important to me, and I hope it is just one step of many in this direction. I went into this movie with so much hope, and I'm delighted to say with this and among many other things, it was not unfounded. And again, this is not a film review, and I know there were flaws to this movie, but like, about this thing, this is how I feel. There are videos that I watched by happenstance that were percolating around in my brain seeing Wonder Woman, and I gotta say that these videos by Pop Culture Detective Agency, Born Sexy Yesterday, The Fantastic Masculinity of Newt Scamander, and Predatory Romance and Harrison Ford movies. These are all videos that I highly recommend, and all visit very similar themes of masculinity that I touch on in this video. Additionally, I also read Holly Bourne's excerpt on relationships in Hannah Witton's book Doing It. Holly's test for romance on film is the Wormtail Test. Can you imagine Wormtail and Harry Potter doing this? Is what media is telling you romantic still romantic with Wormtail in the scenario? And while she's looking at the I know you want to kiss me like scenarios, I kind of did the same thing with Steve and Diana in this situation. If I replace our characters with a mishmash of couples, heteronormative and otherwise, I still see trust, respect, communication, all at the basis of the foundation of this relationship and also in the wider story. Even when Steve doesn't really believe the Ares is behind this or I was made from clay, he never challenges her on it. He accepts this to be her truth. And looking at the bigger picture, there is some posturing around the other men. I think there is something to be said that Steve goes back and forth a little between what he values and what his values are versus what the values of the greater society of men say. And of course there was some other representation present with Sammy's line about being the wrong color to be an actor, and then with Eugene Brave Rock's character casting open discussion of my US yeah, our history as a country, as well as his freedom to choose his period costume. Link to that article below. Ultimately, I have no idea if this subtext or coded language was intentional. I, for one, cannot wait to buy Wonder Woman on Blu-ray and listen to every cast and crew commentary and watch every special featurette. But to condense something that John Green has said about being a novelist, the book stops being the author's story at publication. I took away messages from Wonder Woman that maybe I put there, but that does not negate their validity. Just like Diana's hope and compassion and even her naivety in some areas never negated her power. I can't believe I recorded this whole thing, scripted everything, and forgot to include the lasso scene where they're arguing in London and he voluntarily takes the lasso. I'm sorry, that was so, that scene, so good. Huzzah! I got my feelings out there. While this was a longer video, no surprise there, this content and format is actually somewhat new to me and I loved making it. I am so happy for the box office reports still coming out, and I'm absolutely totally ready and on board to rally behind Marvel's Black Panther and then later Captain Marvel. Let me know your reactions in the comments, and of course like, share, and subscribe if you're so inclined. If you would like to watch another video from me, I have them linked on screen now. And of course, videos and media that I've referred to in this video are all linked in the Chamber of Secrets, and I encourage you to check those treasures out. Until my next video, DFTBA.